Hey, you guys, welcome to this episode of The Rachel Cruze Show. And today's gonna be a great episode because I wanna share with you guys some of the things that I learned about money from my story. So, growing up, we didn't grow up with a ton because my parents filed bankruptcy actually the year I was born. So I was born in April and they filed in September. So my early memories, which of course we don't really have memories like when we're 2-3 years old, were really rough for my parents. And then as I started getting memories, I don't know how old you are, 4, 5, 6, 7, they were kind of coming out of it, but it was still a long journey. And so having those memories and seeing what the bankruptcy taught them through my entire childhood was really key. So, I hope that none of you guys will have to go through bankruptcy or really deep financial hardship because it is really difficult. I can tell you though, I was so thankful for what they taught me because of what they experienced. So maybe some of you that are going through a hard time, and if you have kids or people around you that you love, this is some encouragement that your influence has a lot on the people around you, even if you're going through a really hard time. So here are a couple of things that I learned. One was the only way to have money is to work for it. This came at a very young age, so we always laugh because as Ramsey kids, we were never given an allowance. We were always on commission. So you work, you get paid. If you don't work, you don't get paid. And that was a correlation that I have known, honestly, since I can remember. And so even later in life, whether it was as a teenager or in college and stuff, like that was always a deep-rooted idea in my head that if I want money, and especially when I become an adult and I'm working, that's how I get money. So there was never this moment of, oh my gosh, this is how the world works. It was always from the beginning. And the commission system, some people kind of hate on it, some people love it, but I like it because, again, it correlates that money comes from work. Now, there were some chores we did around the house just because we were part of the family. So things like the kitchen, we had to do dishes and bring our plates to the sink, help mom, all of that. And that was just being part of the family. But there were these moments that were really teachable to say, hey, if you do this, we'll pay you $1 or whatever it was. And it was huge because when you earn money as a kid, and that's the money you have, you give it differently, you save it differently, you spend it differently, all of it. So I was a huge proponent of the commission system, and we do that with our kids now. We're not as formal, I should say. We probably should be, like the Ramsey kids, we had chore charts and everything. So my girls, they're 7 and 5, and then Charles is 3, so he doesn't really count when it comes to the commission system. But we'll kind of do it spontaneously. We're like, okay, if both of you clean up the playroom, because it's a disaster, we'll give you $1. Or if you help me go and unload groceries, that's $1, whatever it is. So we kind of do it ad hoc, but still they get it. They are starting to see, oh my gosh, this is how we can make money because we can take this money and do things with it. And so I love doing that so early on in life. So that was one thing that I was thankful for. Another thing that I learned was that money isn't gonna fix all your problems. Now, I will say, yes, it is nice to have money. There is a sense of security, when you have money in the bank, all of that. But mom and dad were never at this point where they had this attitude of if we just had more money, our life would be better. If we just had more, everything would be better. They really showed, they may not have felt it inside, I don't know, but the way that they showed contentment was very, very real. They never complained about our situation. They always made things fun and enjoyable. And as a kid, especially, you don't know the difference, right? So we never went on vacation as kids. We'd go camping. That was the vacation. And it was that's just what you did. You didn't think twice about it as a kid. And so I was thankful for parents that didn't sit there and complain about their situation, that they kind of just embraced it with us. And I'm really thankful for that. Another thing that I learned early on that I am so thankful for is that it's okay to be a spender. Yes. Some people think the Ramsey family was obsessed with money and all we did was talk about money, and you had to have a growth stock mutual fund by the age of 7, or all this crazy stuff that it was we were so strict and you had to do this and this and this. And you had to, be a saver and all this stuff. But I am a natural spender, and they saw that early on. And they never shamed me for it. It was just yeah, you're a spender, Rachel. It's great. You're gonna have to learn to save in life, but it's not a bad thing. And I love that too, because my dad, many people don't realize this, he's a natural spender. So my mom is more of the saver. So I don't know if I just related to him on that level, but like it was never a bad thing if you had money to go and spend it. It was like, yeah, that's okay. You want to be able to give some and save some as well, but it wasn't like, yeah, you're a bad person. Because I feel like in the money world, spenders kind of get the bad rap. Like it's like, oh, all the good ones and the wise ones, they're all savers. They delay gratification all of the time. They are mature. Like they're like up on this pedestal where us spenders are like, okay, sorry, my knee jerk, it's to spend money. I'm sorry, that's just what's in my heart. Am I this terrible person? And thankfully I grew up in a house where no, it was not shamed or condemned. I obviously have to learn other skill sets, but you can be a spender and still win with money, which I'm thankful for. Okay, before I go on to the next lesson that I learned, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Christian Healthcare Ministries. All right, you guys, I know that we're all looking for ways to save, especially on healthcare costs. So do yourself a favor and check out Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's biblically based health cost sharing that could keep your budget under control. So learn more today at chministries.org/budget. Okay, so kind of in the same line as I learned it was okay to be a spender, my parents also let us make mistakes with money. Yes, they were not overly controlling when it comes to money. I do hear some parents today and they're like, well, I have to, my kids, I have to tell them like, well, before you buy this, and it's all rigid and strict and all of this. Or like, if it's not a good investment to spend your money on, you shouldn't buy it, even as a kid. But man, they really let us, like when it came to our spending envelope, because we had 3 envelopes, give, save, and spend, they kind of let the spending one be where we learned our lessons, whether it was like a Slinky that I bought and it broke like 3 hours later, or I spent it all at Wet Seal for some gaucho pants, something like that. I mean, I would just go and spend. And they never I would probably complain about it, if something broke or it was cheap and it fell apart, and they'd be like, okay, let's talk about that, But it was never this, no, you can't. And so the fact that it wasn't so legalistic gave such freedom, because here's the deal, your kids are going to make mistakes when it comes to money, right? That is going to happen. You're going to make mistakes when it comes to money. We all do. And so learning some of those mistakes under their roof, where they're less expensive mistakes, inexpensive mistakes, and kind of walking through that process was so helpful, so that when I went on my own, I already had made mistakes, but they weren't fatal. So I knew how that felt, so I could avoid some of them as an adult, versus like them being so controlling. And the first time I ever make a mistake, it's a $10,000 mistake or something crazy. So thankful for that. So thanks, Mom and Dad, for not being legalistic. And the last lesson that I learned was when my parents were actually doing well. They struggled, of course, at the beginning. And then, as the business and stuff became more successful, they started doing better financially. They did not increase their lifestyle much. So yes, I will say, as the Ramsey family, our trips got a lot better. Mom and Dad were great travelers, so we traveled a lot. We didn't camp as much. But really, that's the only thing I can think on that they kind of, quote unquote, splurged, where they could have afforded for us to, have a bunch of designer bags as girls, or I don't know, go get our nails done all the time. I don't know, just have a bigger, more fabulous lifestyle, as people would say. But they didn't. They did not increase our lifestyle. I thought we were still poor for a long time. And I look back now, I'm like, man, that was so smart. Not just for our kids, but I think even for them, as they earned more, they were still budgeting. Mom still cooked at home a lot. They were giving more outrageously. I didn't know that until later. They brought us on in a little bit of that. But as adults now, they were telling us a lot about what was going on when we were in high school. So there were things that they did kind of behind the scenes that we didn't realize. But when it kind of came to that idea of just accumulating more stuff because they had the money, they just didn't do that. So it really did teach me that it's okay to have nice stuff, but don't let your nice stuff have you. And it can have you if you go into debt for it, but also can have you if you think your identity, your joy, that all this is gonna be different and better because you have more stuff. And it's just not the truth. Again, stuff isn't bad, but it does not create this level of joy and satisfaction that we believe that it does. So those were some of the big picture things that I learned growing up. And obviously they taught us, to avoid debt, to give generously, how to invest, those tactical, practical things to do with money. But there are these overarching, philosophies that weren't even said, but it's the way they lived it out that I look back, that I'm so thankful for those foundational blocks. Now, I know not everyone had that childhood, and mom and dad were not perfect, okay, when it came to parenting and all of that. They were great, but I can see that as such a gift. And even if you didn't have that, and even if, you were like, gosh, I didn't learn all this stuff till I was in my 30s or 40s or 20s, you can still start where you are today. You can still start to say, hey, I'm gonna tactically be wise with my money and budget and avoid debt and give and invest and do all these things. But also, I'm going to learn kind of that more bigger approach of your attitude and emotions towards money, because those are important as well. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully it was encouraging to you. And just make sure to share this with a friend who maybe is thinking about money a lot or talking about money a lot. Share them this video, because hopefully this will give them some encouragement as well. And remember, you guys, to take control of your money and create a life you love.